teaching strategies. Ever since, and at the age of 9, I enrolled into a military academy where I learned to be the great ruler I am today.
And what is your role in the French Revolution?
During the French Revolution, I was already in the army. I pledged my loyalty to the revolution. I sided with them. I wanted a democracy. I sided with the people of the Directory. As the Directory started failing out, I found it was my right to take control and to give the French people what they wanted.
So how did you increase the strength of France?
I was able to increase France's power by conquering my many enemies. I expanded the French's territory by going against enemies such as the Austrians, making them sign a treaty to give us land. By increasing our territories, I improved the strength of France.
And how did you first gain control of France?
Well, I gained control of France in a time of turbulence. I took over during the Directory. It failed, so I replaced it. I came in, I was greatly supported by the people. Even after being abdicated and returning, the people still wanted me. And when I returned, the people cheered as I came back. The people loved me.
So how did you improve the life of those French people?
These people, I greatly improved their lives. Being a supporter of the French Revolution, I adopted some of their ideas in the Napoleonic Code. I also improved the law system in this code. The laws have many parallels to Rome. I created a new education system as well. And on top of that, I helped the economy by establishing a bank of France. Religiously, I reopened the Catholic Church with my conclave, and I also extended religious freedom to the Protestants and Jews.
Thank you. I'm a French lawyer and I'm leader of the Jacobins.
Who are the Jacobins?
We're a radical group who support the revolution and we want our natural rights.
Now, why did the Jacobins gain control in France?
We gained control because during the revolution we were trying to fight against the monarch, the church, and the estate system for our rights as a people.
Once they gained the control, how did the Jacobins maintain the control in France?
We kept our control because we were rulers who wanted to give our people the natural rights that they long deserved.
Why did this ultimately fail?
We did eventually fail because I realized that killing so many people wasn't necessary for the cause, and we were overruled by other parties, but we just wanted to give our people the natural rights.
What kind of government would be best for France and why?
A democratic republic would be the best government for France, and it's because it allows us to have our rights and gives us strong representation in government. Napoleon promised this to us, but he didn't deliver.
Thank you. May I have just a line?
And usually if the government doesn't provide natural rights, people can overthrow it, correct?
Yeah, that's what Napoleon.
Well, shouldn't you be in support of Napoleon then? He did exactly...
No, he's a totalitarian.
Can I ask my question?
Yes, that's
He did exactly that with the Directory. He also pledged loyalty to the third estate, doing something that you yourself probably would recommend.
Can you repeat the question? It wasn't like clear.
Napoleon did exactly. He pledged loyalty to the third estate, and he did something that you yourself would probably recommend. Why wouldn't you be in support of him?
What did he do that I would recommend?
He pledged loyalty to the third estate.
But he crowned himself emperor.
So he can take control and support the third estate.
And then he created the Napoleonic Code, cutting other people's rights off. Isn't that right? Did you read the paper yourself? Yeah.
Would that be rude? Where are you going, Judge?
If people can have natural rights and duties, what kind of government would you recommend?
Democracy.
Why?
You have a balance in between the government. It's just Napoleon right now.
Napoleon supported the democracy.
No, he's a totalitarian right now. There's no branches divided. There's no people keeping his power from going overboard. There's no one keeping him in line from doing something something he's not supposed to do.
He gave himself restrictions when he first came to power, and the second time as well, so he was protecting people.
He crowned himself, took the crown right out of the Pope's hand and put it on his head. What does that tell you?
That he wants the good of the people, so he wants power so he can control that.
No. It represents a selfish man who only looks out for himself and wants power.
The French people, they greeted Napoleon with open arms. The soldiers that were sent to defeat him joined him. What do you have to say about that?
What does he say about that? People can't make up their minds.
Clearly they did, and they wanted Napoleon.
No. They went from absolute monarchy, then they went from this reign of terror, National Assembly, and then the Directory, and then they had Napoleon, and then they went from Louis XVIII, and then back to Napoleon. What does that tell you?
They liked Napoleon, they went back to him.
Not really.
Why'd you say that?
Why do I say that? It is something.
Please continue.
Objection, Your Honor. She has connections to the dude that
Overruled.
To try.
Can you repeat that again? What was that? Where was I? I lost my train of thought.
The people joined Napoleon, and they basically made a parade for him, and they welcomed him with open arms.
But he ran like a coward and left his people behind.
He was forced
Where
into
was
exile.
The second time he wasn't. He ran like a coward with his tail between his legs.
He doesn't have
Oh! Expression.
He had lost his battle. He couldn't remain in power. He was forced to leave.
But didn't he also try to take poison? What does that tell you? That it's a man who doesn't have the power anymore.
He firmly believed that he was doing everything he could for the people.
When he was leaving his people behind with no one to rule, he had promised, like you said before, to be loyal to them.
What?
Do you have any more questions?
What's up?
No,
Okay.
okay.
Yes.
I am military. I've always had an interest in watching government and how it moves.
Why did you decide that the military is something that you wanted to pursue?
I wanted to fight for my country and help the people. At a young age, from when I finally started fighting, I always had France in my mind.
Now, what was your role during the French Revolution?
French Revolution, well, I supported the revolutionaries, and I was against the government, the monarchy.
Why did you rise to power when you did?
Rise to power. Let's see. This is because I saw France was crumbling before me. The Directory obviously was failing, and during the reign of terror, people died. The France needed a stable leader, someone that could take control and help the country once and for all.
Now, what did you promise the people of France that you would give them in exchange for their support?
In exchange for their support, I promised to give them what they wanted, their freedoms and their liberties. I made a compromise in the Napoleonic Code, giving them some of these rights.
Now, what have you done to ensure that these rights that you promised the French people would be distributed?
Well, honestly, they be distributed. Basically, in the code, the Napoleonic Code ensures this. I fought for the people of France, fighting military battles for them. Why wouldn't I want them to get that?
Have you or have you not given the people the rights that you promised them?
I have given them what was outlined in the Napoleonic Code that has been enforced.
What kind of ruler would you consider yourself?
I would consider myself an emperor.
Oh,
But
really? So, you said that you were going to fight for democracy, yet you're saying that you're an emperor. It makes no sense.
Well, I'm not any emperor. I'm in support for the people. I always fought for them since the beginning.
But don't emperors take all the power to themselves?
That's some emperors do. I am unlike them. I fight for the people. How many times do I have to repeat myself saying I fight for them?
It is my understanding that you've been exiled in the past, is this correct?
Yes, I have been exiled.
Now why?
I had no choice. I was fighting a losing battle, and I was down. I had to flee. There was no other choice. It's either flee or die.
Now, it's also to my understanding that you managed to escape from exile, is this correct?
Yes, I returned to France.
Wouldn't a loyal and trustworthy leader, as you say you are, be trusted to not defy the government and its decisions in this manner?
Well, put it this way, if I fled, I would be dead. I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be for my people.
How can the French people trust you to make their decisions if they cannot trust you to remain on an island?
Trust me, even when I came back, they were still there for me. They never lost. They always kept me at heart. They always kept me as their leader.
Do you believe that you made distinct contributions to the country of France? Like what, for example?
I have made great contributions. I instituted an education system, university system, laws, civil laws. I extended the right to vote to all men, giving them equality. With my bank system, the Bank of France, I helped the economy and also extended out religious freedoms to Christians, Protestants, and Jews.
Now, in your code, you limited one right, and that was the freedom of speech. You censored everything that people would say. Why did you do that?
Censorship. So the people out there would not be fighting against me. If I recall correctly, over in Britain, towards the end of his reign, the Duke of Wellington covered his windows with iron curtains to hide from his oppressors. I established that to prevent people from speaking out against me. But at the time, a majority of the country was for me. If I recall correctly, the judge has hammered the gavel.
Thank you, Counsel. For coming and giving us your time. So the question was, did Napoleon destroy or preserve the essence of the French Revolution? We have reached a verdict. We find Napoleon guilty.